Good morning. You are attending the Animal Matters Commission hearing for October 4th, 2021. The Animal Matters Commission was established and is conducted in accordance with Article 12 of the Anne Arundel County Code. These are administrative hearings, and by nature they are informal, which means you are not hampered by rules of evidence. However, please be aware that we are still testifying under oath. Each party will have their opportunity to state their case. After each party states their case, they will have an opportunity to ask questions of the other party. Please do not interrupt the other party. You'll be given ample time to talk. In many cases, we are aware there is a history. You may briefly tell the commission about this history. However, please focus on the issue at hand. After each case, the commission will have open deliberations. During these deliberations, the public may not participate. If the commissioners have an additional question, you may answer that question. No further information will be heard and a decision will be rendered. This decision is a recommendation to the chief of police or his representative. The recommendation of the commission will be taken in consideration, and a final decision will be made by the chief of police or his designated representative. If the defendant in the case, you are unhappy with the decision of the commission, you may appeal. For citations, appeals are made through the District Court of Maryland. For administrative orders, potentially dangerous, and vicious orders, appeals are made through the County Board of Appeals. Phil, can you please call the first case?
Absolutely. Our first case, we had Animal Care and Control versus Marcia Sturgis. That was postponed. We now have Herbert Mead versus Rachel Olson for 2 citations, animal running at large, for Chloe and Dakota the dogs. All parties who have an interest in this case who wish to testify may now come forward to take the oath. Please utilize the Zoom's raise hand feature. I'll get you added in one by one and sworn in all together. I have Mr. Mead here, and then I've got notice from Miss Olson. Let me get Mr. Mead up first. Mr. Mead, if you can hear me, if you'd please start your video and audio.
Okay. Can you
hear me, sir? Yes, sir, I can hear you. Perfect. If you would please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Herb Mead, M-E-A-D-E, 2827 Fennel Road in Edgewater, Maryland.
Thank you, sir. To the commissioners, I did receive an email from Miss Olson about 30 minutes ago stating that she was requesting postponement. Her children were sick and they needed to be to the doctors by 9:45. I did let her know that county code required her to appear in person the day of to make that case for good cause. I did not hear back from her. So it is essentially up to you guys as to whether or not to postpone at this point.
Wasn't this already postponed once?
It was by Mr. Mead, who gave notice the last time in writing ahead of time. That's to the tail end of the file.
I believe she just joined the call as well.
Oh, perfect. Then I will promote her up. Ms. Olson, if you can hear me, I'm going to promote you up to a panelist so you can request postponement or continue as need be. Perfect. And Ms. Olson, if you can hear me, if you please enable your audio and video.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Hi, how are you? Hey.
Doing well.
Yeah.
If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Rachel Olson, 209 Cinnamon Lane, Edgewater, Maryland, 21037.
Thank you, ma'am. And is it your intention to request postponement or continue?
If we're able to, unfortunately, I have 2 kids home that are sick. Their doctor's appointment is at 10 a.m. The last hearing that I was on for about 2.5, 3 hours, and I think I was the 3rd one down. So just in the sake of time, I just wanted to kind of give that heads up. I am able to stay on until like right before 10 a.m. But I do have to get them there. So if that's an option, please let me know. If not, then I'll try to make do in the meantime.
Commissioners, I think that should be doable. Ms. Olson, at this time, you are first on the agenda this morning. So if that, if, you know, 45 minutes to an hour is enough time, I don't want to rush things, but I also think that might be enough time to hear the case. If you're available, that'd be fine.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. If I could get you both sworn in, if you would both please raise your right hand. Do you declare and affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you both kindly. If you would please remain muted unless called upon to speak, and we are good to proceed.
Okay, so we will first hear, I believe, Mr. Mead, you are the complainant. If you'd like to start and describe to us what we're here for today.
Yes, I'm currently the past president of the Gingerville Woods Homeowners Association. So at the time of the incidents, I was the president of the association. Being the president, you get the complaints in the neighborhood and people who feel they have an issue. We have gotten a complaint on Miss Olson's walking her dogs without being on a leash. The vice president spoke to her once on the street, and then I did a series of emails to Miss Olson advising her of the rules and that it's not only county rule but part of our restriction and covenants, and was hoping that would be the end of it. Then I happen my property I live next to the common area, we call it, but it's the area owned by all the residents in our community. And on 2 occasions, on January the 10th and January the 4th of 2021, I witnessed Miss Olson having the 2 dogs off a lead in the common area. And so therefore I did the affidavit and complaint to the animal control.
Okay, thank you. And just to clarify, I see that there's 4 total citations. It's 1 for each dog on 2 different dates. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Ms. Olson, would you like to explain what's going on?
Sure. Just to confirm, I only have 1 citation per dog. So where are the other ones?
So yes, just to clarify that, the second 2 affidavits are supporting documents for the first, since we can't charge for multiples of the same violation until the originals are dispositioned. So 2 citations, but yeah, 4 affidavits, 2 as supporting documentation.
Understood. Great, thank you. Yeah, Ms. Olson, please describe what's happening with your 2 dogs on walks.
Sure. So first, the first occasion that Mr. Mead mentioned, my older son and I, he was 8 at the time, he's 9 now. We were going for a run. We stopped at the common area with both of the dogs. At this point, our puppy is 3 months old. We just got her. She is a Rottweiler. She's a large breed, but she was about 12, 13 weeks at this point. We were doing like a series of workouts, push-ups and stuff like that between my son and I. We put the dogs on the bench there, held them right there on the bench. And as we were getting up to finish our workout, we undid the leash. And that's when, I guess, Herb or whoever it was said that their dogs were off the leash. We were just finishing up the workout, picking up the leash and continuing to go forward. I did receive an email about it. I messaged back to the vice president that, we apologize. We weren't like leaving the dogs totally unleashed, just running around. We were doing workout and we unleashed them, continued to get our stuff together, and then continued to move on. There was a dog coming, so we kind of like grabbed leashes and said, okay, let's go. My other dog is 11 years old. She doesn't run after dogs. Neither of them have ever ran after a dog. So again, they weren't like totally off leash. We were just picking up our stuff and then continuing to move on. The occasion that Mr. Mead then called or wrote the citations about or called animal control on, that was about a week later, I believe, maybe two. Again, my older son, and my younger son, who was 5, we went to the common area after we went to a walk for them to go play football together. They had a football. There's a little pavilion that sits right next to it, right next to the big field. I was sitting at the pavilion with my older dog, who's again 11 years old, very slow. She's sitting right next to me, laying down. I believe the leash was like right next to me on the ground. It wasn't maybe in my hand, but she was laying literally right next to me. And then while my 2 sons were throwing the football back to each other, they had the puppy, who was three months old at this time. And my older one had the leash in his hand running back and forth, and she was chasing him. There was a period of time where he dropped the leash and the dog was kind of chasing him back and forth. And that is when Mr. Mead and his, I believe it's his daughter, where I then see them watching us for like, I don't know how long, and then just started screaming at us that we were breaking the law, that our dogs are off the leash. They told us, they've given us a warning. Obviously we don't see the sign, which I didn't see the sign, but obviously I know it's a law to have your dogs on a leash. The puppy was not on a leash at all times. She was chasing the kids back and forth, biting the shirts and kind of just running with them, having fun. That was my mistake to do that. Obviously we can do that in our yard, but it was just us there. Again, I apologize about that. They continued to scream and yell over their fence to the point where both my kids ran up and were really scared that whoever this was screaming at them that we're breaking the law over and over again. About 10 minutes before that altercation happened, my neighbor, who is, I believe, on the board as well, was with his dog, who's probably a little bit smaller than my older dog. He was literally throwing the ball back and forth to his dog that was off a leash. He had one of those Nerf things that, throws the ball right in front of us. I don't know how he missed that, Mr. Mead, but that was happening right there. His dog actually got off to the point where it went up the trail, which is a hill that a bunch of like 4 houses lined to. And he was running after his dog, trying to chase the dog down because he was running with the ball and the ball ran up the hill. So my reaction back to him was, okay, you're screaming at myself and my 2 children who are playing with a puppy in a common field. There's no one else around. They weren't chasing after a dog. There wasn't a threat by any means. Again, this is, breaking the law, not having your dog fully on your hand with a leash. But that is how it happened, in my opinion.
Thank you. Mr. Mead, do you have any comment?
Yeah, of course, we have different viewpoints on what we saw. The first occasion, the dog was dragging a lead and was all the way up into a neighbor's other property. And on the second, we did observe that the dog was off a lead and was, yes, playing with the kids. Now, I will add for Ms. Olson, ever since this occasion, I've seen her walking in the neighborhood and her dogs have been under control, and she's taking the leash laws seriously. So I'd like to add that for your consideration.
Thank you. Does either party have anything else to add? And then I'll also ask commissioners if they have any questions for you.
I do not.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for either party?
I have a question, but I think it's more for Philip. Am I to understand this correctly that once we resolve this today, everybody has to come back for a second citation? We can't just resolve them all at once?
No, they would have to issue new affidavits for new citations to be issued. Essentially, if you put in an affidavit for your neighbor's dog barking, and then the next day it's barking and you fill out another affidavit, and the next day it's barking, you fill out another affidavit, only the first affidavit results in a citation until disposition is made. Any further affidavits are made as supporting documentation. They're lumped into one case. So once that is dispositioned, the additional affidavits don't then result in citations. A new affidavit after the disposition date would have to be filed, and then that would be a fresh affidavit, possibly at a higher fee schedule or what have you, but that would be a separate case. So no, we're good.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we didn't have to bring these folks back. We can resolve this all at once. Thank you.
Yep.
Good question. Anyone else have any other questions for either party? I just have one question, Ms. Olson. It sounds like there's a nice big open area, and it seems like it's quite tempting. It would be tempting to anyone, even if you have your dogs on leash, to let go and just let them run and have a good time if there's nobody around. I can see the pull for that, but I also can see where it's technically, not appropriate. And if there is other complaints, it's not something that can be continued. And I guess I'm understanding that Mr. Mead, you've recognized, this situation has brought that to light, and it's been something that you're taking seriously. And Mr. Mead did want to bring that forward, that that it's something that he feels like maybe the problem has been resolved. And, unfortunately, it's, have to find an appropriate dog park and let them run in that appropriate area. But I can appreciate that it sounds like you've taken it seriously and made adjustments to your play areas. If neither of you have anything else to add and commissioners have no other comment, we will close for deliberation and make a decision. If we have any other comment or questions, we'll still stay with us. We might have other questions, but we're going to close for open deliberations at this time. Let's start with Ed.
Yeah, it seems like it's cut and dry to me. That's my opinion. There was a warning received on 12/28/20, and apparently we had some additional incidents after that. So the next step up then would be the citation, and I think that that it's warranted in this case, probably to drive the issue home. There's also, I feel like it may be to the benefit of the HOA and to the people that live there, not only the defendant here, but to the other ones, if they are made aware of section 124913 of the law that came out, I believe, around this time last year concerning reckless animal owners, so that they know, the warning and the citations. If they get to be back to back to back and we get resistance, what could develop from there. So in my opinion, in this case, I think the citations are warranted.
Thanks, Ed. Matthew?
I would agree that the citations are warranted. I would also be open to dismissing them, given the evidence of since January, 9 months later, that she has shown respect to the law and kept her dogs leashed on her walks.
Thank you. Okay. Jennifer?
maybe because I'm a newer commissioner and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but just in looking at the definitions, I was struck by the fact that it says at large means off the property, not leashed and under control of a responsible person. So I'm guessing that everyone assumes that under control, like we sort of all know what that means, but just reading the plain language of the definition, I guess, how would you, these animals didn't seem like they weren't under the control of the owner. To me, they were playing with them. I mean, I get it. The leash wasn't actually in the hand, but the leash was close enough by. So if you were going to fulfill both parts of that definition, I guess I'm just not entirely convinced. I think it's a little ambiguous, but I mean, I get it. She wasn't holding the leash. I don't think, I think she's gotten the message, as Matthew has said. I understand why the citations might have been warranted to begin with, but I'd be okay with dismissing them as well.
Okay, thank you. Gregory.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it seemed like, the citations are appropriate for what happened in the past, but it seems like she has gotten the message now, and I'm willing to dismiss but I guess at the very least, possibly reduce it. I think we've done that in the past, especially, is it 4 citations she's getting?
2.
2. Well, I would be willing to reduce the 2 citations that she got.
And I believe $50 each pet.
Yeah. So maybe bring it down to maybe half or whatever the commission decides.
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth.
So to Jennifer's point, the dogs, and it appears the dogs were not completely out of control. We're not out running at large without the owner present. So there's some point to the part of the code that says the dogs have to be under the control of a person. And I believe to a large extent they were. So I think that here there's also the HOA guidelines or conditions, and that I think weighs very heavily on this case and needs to be addressed within those parameters of the HOA. So as far as the citations, I would dismiss them.
Okay, thank you. I agree with others in the commission that I can see why the citations seem warranted. A lot of times we'll hear cases of running at large where there's an accident happens where the leash slips away from them or the leash has broken, and that is pretty easy for me to dismiss cases when they fully understand the gravity of having their dog a leash in hand, but accidents happen and they slip away. That doesn't sound like the case here for me. It sounds like it's just a nice open area and it's nice to run. And I'd always try to remember how while in some people's mind, when you have your dog on a leash, they're a puppy or they're not a threat. So you're quite comfortable letting go in the leash. Whether you have recall or not, if something approaches, that would be a whole nother case scenario that we may be here for. So I do take this seriously, regardless of HOA, that, at this point, because no one was around, it seemed like a controlled situation, but it could easily get out of control. And so my thoughts were is that it's not an accidental slip away. We're kind of aware that we're letting go of the leash and we're wanting to have playtime that's not in a dog park or appropriate off-leash area. But the point is that there's often times where your dog may be fine off the leash, but it's maybe not someone else's dog that comes along. Maybe they're not good with other dogs and they're worried of the approach of another dog. So that can happen too, where it's not even about your dog being aggressive or not. It's about, you know, approaching someone else possibly. So that's kind of the scenarios that I run through in my head, that I think that it's not even about this good dog playing and being off leash and not being aggressive, being a puppy. It's about that's inappropriate and can quickly spiral out of control if another dog that maybe is on a leash and doesn't want to be approached, and now we're in a situation. So anyway, I think that's kind of what I think about sometimes about having control over the leash. This didn't seem like an accident. It seems like we just, you know, thought no one was really around, it wouldn't do any harm, which I can definitely understand. So my thoughts are, there's somewhat of control in the situation. And to Jennifer's point about the leash was intact, but let go. But it didn't seem like a completely out of control situation, and separate from HOA guidelines, that she, you know, that's not our concern, but the dogs were technically running off, not leash in hand. So I don't know. My thoughts are, I don't think I'm completely comfortable with dismissing it totally, but I'd be open to other comments about that. Maybe reducing it by half on each dog, because there's no question that it did happen and it wasn't an accidental slip away. So it did happen. We did not have leash in hand, and it wasn't an accident. So I'm inclined to uphold the citation, but be flexible and understanding that I think we're all on the same page moving forward, that this won't happen again. Any thoughts about that? Any feedback? Another circle back around on, again,
Yes.
if we, you know, I am open to full dismissal or reduced by half.
Stephanie, I think you made some very good points. So thank you for that. And so I absolutely 100% see your points and agree with them. So having said all of those points, I think reducing, maybe doing half of each citation does make the most sense, given that it was a conscious decision, like you said, to let go of the lead. And you're absolutely 100% correct that something can happen with another dog very quickly. So I think that she has, I'm thinking that she has the, moving forward, that she's going to be very responsible and understands, the consequences of those actions. So some leniency, I think, is warranted. And but I agree with you regarding the citations.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other comments about that, or feedback? And
yeah, Stephanie, I agree, and you did bring up some good points. The rules are for the not only the safety of the public, but also the safety of the animals, and that, in my mind, comes forefront. I don't think that when it was mentioned that the dog was tethered to a bench while they played football or whatever, I don't think that that's a proper response to the leash law. But anyway, I'd be willing to reduce it half. I think that's where we're headed. So yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other thoughts or comments?
This is Miss Olson, if I'm able to make a comment.
Typically not, unless we have a question, so we are closed to public participation. Commission, or do we want to hear any more feedback or information? It's up to us if we want to hear anything further, but I think we understand what happened, and I think we understand that there wasn't any intent to do anything other than play with a young puppy, but understanding that they have to have a leash in hand, and I feel like I think we're on the path here to understanding what happened, and that going forward, with a responsible owner that's made changes, That's why I feel like we're leaning towards meeting halfway. Like, yes, it did happen, and I don't think there's any denying that, but also, you know, it's one of those things where I think we can meet them halfway and try to understand where she's coming from, Miss Olson's coming from as well, and try to, you know, 50% of the fees going down from $50 a dog to $25 per pet on the incident. I think that makes a lot of sense to uphold what we're here to uphold, but also meet someone halfway. So I don't really know if I need any more information from that to understand the situation there. Anyone else? If we are okay with the information that we've been provided and we don't have any other questions at this time, does anyone prepared to make a motion?
Yes, Stephanie, I'll make a motion that the citations are upheld but reduced to half cost.
Any seconds?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you so much. And Phil, I guess that wraps up that case. I hope that, I think that, is that it for today?
That is it for today. We just have the meeting minutes from last time I sent to you via email, and then, or I wonder, was there a different email last time? Because I sent it to the one I have on file. Let me double check.
My email's the same whether it's Hotmail or Gmail. So I will check there too.
Let's see, 913. Yeah, I've got it at the Hotmail there.
Yeah, it's my primary. Got it. Okay. Great, everything does look correct. So we will vote on these minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve them as written.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Great, thanks, Phil.
Thank you. And that should do it for regular business.
Great. Well, I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Thank you guys for coming. And I move to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor? Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Great day.
Have a
Have
good one.
guys.